Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. As you all are joining, we would love to know where folks are from. If you do not mind just sharing, of course, your name and where you were joining us from this morning. And also, if you are part of any organization or EPP or states or districts, please feel free to let us know. Please feel free to enter that in the chat. And we're excited that everyone is here. And we'll get started shortly. While this webinar is happening, if you do have any questions, we do have a Q&A function. Please feel free to type in your questions in the Q&A feature. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this so that folks may ask their questions. But if we are in the middle of something and the question pops up, please feel free to type in your questions and we'll be sure to address questions throughout or at the end of this call. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Sabrina Baptiste with the Pathways Alliance, and I'm really glad you're here. We designed this session to be practical and transparent. Our goal today is to walk through why the Principal Apprenticeship TA cohort exists, how they are designed, and why the national guidelines, of course, the standards, why they matter so much to this work. And as I mentioned before, we will leave plenty of space for your questions. We know that many of you are here because you are exploring a principal apprenticeship, trying to launch one, already in the weeds, or may have some barriers or just your curiosity. This session is for you. And again, we are excited that you are all here. Um, I'm joined by my colleagues this morning, Aisha Haynes, who joins us from Prepare to Teach. And I'm also joined by my other colleague, Ellie Fitzgerald, who joins us from EdHub New York. And they will be sharing a few kind words with you this morning. So I am going to stop talking for a bit, let them share out a little bit, and then I can talk about why this works, how this comes together. So I'll pass it off to Aisha to talk a little bit about Prepare to Teach and her experiences.
Thank you so much for that, Sabrina. Good morning, everyone. My name is Aisha Haynes. I'm the Director of Storytelling at Prepare to Teach. I'm not sure if you know, but Prepare to Teach is a national organization. We serve as an intermediary, and we bring together partners from states and districts and communities to strengthen teacher preparation systems. Fundamentally, our focus is really focused on year-long paid teacher residencies and making sure that aspiring teachers have what they need. And so we believe that these residencies help teachers gain real experience. We attract a more diverse candidate workforce and just make teacher preparation more fair and more effective. This work is so exciting because, of course, it extends our mission. Prepare to Teach, one of I think, our strengths, and in my role as Director of Storytelling, is really thinking about how we can serve a wide group of communities. As I mentioned, we are a national organization. So one of the challenges and kind of opportunities for us is like serving across different contexts, right? And so when we think about the work that we'll be working with Pathways, it's an opportunity to serve this goal in a different context. In my work, I have spent a lot of time looking at how this has worked in different parts of the country. So I have a pretty vast knowledge of how different places have made it work. Most notably, we've made incredible gains in New Mexico. I've done some work in Texas with some of their ESCs. So I'm really excited to meet folks and learn about their experiences and their kind of goals, if they do take part in this experience. Um, what else? I think I'll share that I always start off by saying that I started off as a school teacher. I taught for over a decade, as a high school teacher, and that is truly the what grounds my work. I have done a mix of leadership and policy work since then. And I'm really, really excited about the opportunity to, as I said, to work with Pathways because so much of the work I have done has connected teacher residency, grow your own pathways, early implementations of registered teacher apprenticeships. And so, some of that is like supporting cross-agency alignment, funding, policy intersections, helping partners navigate the realities, right? And we can talk about making it happening, but actually figuring out how to make it happen is a completely different story sometimes. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to support people in that work. I think that's all I'll share for now. I'll throw it
Thank you.
to back to Sabrina.
Yes, and I'll pass it on to Ellie. Thank you, Aisha. That was wonderful. And I'll pass it on to Ellie.
Thanks, Sabrina. Thanks, Aisha. Hi, everybody. Ellie Fitzgerald. I'm here. I work with EdHub New York. I'm a project manager with EdHub New York. I've been working with them for over 2 years now. We work specifically in New York State to help implement registered apprenticeships in the educator space. That includes titles of teacher, teacher assistant, school building leader, childcare assistant, and childcare administrator. Um, Throughout that work, what's really cool is a lot of these titles in New York State have been registered with the New York State Department of Labor as an apprenticeship title over the last 2 years. So I really had a front row seat next to one of our fearless leaders at EdHub New York, Colleen McDonald, which I'm sure many of you know, in registering those titles. So aligning those titles with the educator preparation pathway, as well as implementing those on the district level. So we have over 30 programs throughout New York State as registered apprenticeships. And within that work, we launched our first principal administrator apprenticeship on the district level last year at Harpersville, a rural school district in New York State. That has been a great success, and we're continuing to expand that work. So I think kind of that mix of having cross-state agency work as well as district implementation will really help me help you all and expand some of that technical assistance outside of New York State. We've also sat on many cohorts that national cohorts that have done TA for teacher apprenticeships and TA apprenticeships. So we're excited to also expand into that principal space as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Ellie, for sharing. And thank you all for your expertise in this work. I will share a little bit about why this work is important, kind of the what and the why. So across the country, we're seeing some of the same challenges show up again and again. We have ongoing shortages, high turnover, and we're seeing that expiring leaders who want job embedded paid pathways, but there are not that many structures or options to get them there. And we're seeing that systems across the board, funding, licensure, registration, are have fragmented pieces. So what we want to see in this field is that there's many promising principal apprenticeship efforts that are not being stalled in any way, and that they have the support to make sure that it's coordinated. So what we're trying to, of course, accomplish here is that we're trying to see, we're seeing that districts are trying to figure out DOL registration. We're seeing that states are trying to align licensure and funding. We're seeing that universities are trying to adapt coursework. And, everyone is at some point either trying to work together or some of this is happening in some siloed structures. And we are all just trying to bring this all together. So the TA cohorts exist because we don't need more one-off efforts or pilots. We are trying to ensure that we have some type of shared infrastructure, and that we also have some shared learning and a clear definition of quality. Okay. So when we're getting into what are the TA cohorts, um, the pathways principle, of course, apprenticeship technical assistance cohorts are national, no cost cohorts. And again, we are designed to help states and districts design, launch, and strengthen high quality principal apprenticeship programs that are aligned to federally recognized standards. This is not compliance for compliance sake, and this is not a generic professional development. This is targeted technical assistance that we hope will meet programs where they are, whether that's early planning, preparing, or for registration, or just strengthening implementation that they are already in the works. I'll go into a little bit about the cohort design. One thing that is important to know is that this is intentionally designed uh, for two distinct but connected cohorts. So during this work, you will see that one, we do have an overall lead who will support all of this infrastructure of this work, and they will be able to really provide the guidance and do the deep dive of where the states and districts come in. At a district level cohort, the district cohort is focused on implementation. This is where districts will get support around program design, structure, mentorship, and competency mapping, registration logistics, recruitment, buy-in, and you'll have support to answer your day-to-day operational questions. And we're really trying to like hone in overall in the bigger picture and focus on the district level. For our state level cohorts, we understand that states may be focused on systems and scale. So we will really try to outline aligning licensure and certification policies, clarifying funding eligibility and guidance, creating statewide registration frameworks, and also trying to reduce friction so that districts don't have to like reinvent the wheel either. Like I mentioned before, we're trying to work together here and build a cohesive structure. We are hoping, of course, that across both cohorts, participants are receiving monthly facilitated TA sessions that targeted coaching in office hours, and also some practical tools and templates that are aligned to the NGS. We're hoping that there is some peer learning with similarities situated across states and districts. And then also we are intentionally providing support for navigating funding registration and partnerships along the way. And I do want to emphasize that all of this technical assistance is provided at no cost, which is very, very key here. And of course, as I mentioned before, we want to align this to the national guideline standards. And I want to talk a little bit about why they are important. Um, the national guideline standards for principal apprenticeships are really the foundation of everything that we're doing. The NGS really does establish a shared definition of quality for principal apprenticeships. And if you're asking to yourself, well, why does that matter? It does. They create a clear and consistent expectation across states and districts. Instead of everyone interpreting what an apprenticeship is differently, we're really trying to gather this work from the same playbook. And of course, we know that this is not the ceiling, that these standards and guidelines are the floor. They are adaptable to various states, districts, and you can use them to make sure that your program is successful. But we do want to offer some standards and some bars for quality while folks are doing this work. To make sure that we're all grounded. Second, the NGS they allow programs to access, of course, federal and state funding tied to registered apprenticeship programs. So without this alignment to these standards, sometimes funding pathways may seem out of reach. We also want to use the standards to ensure that they're reducing implementation risk. We want to clarify what's required from program design to registration to mentorship to quality so that programs don't get stuck and also, are not behind in the process. And finally, we want to ensure that they support what we actually want for aspiring leaders, that they're paid, that it's job embedded learning, and also that along those lines, it will improve readiness and retention in those areas. So again, as I mentioned, these standards are not meant at all to be restrictive. They're meant to be enabling. We want to ensure that they help move the field. And of course, by any means, and I will say this with confidence, faster um, and move this space along with confidence while folks are in wherever stage that they are. Um, I will also get into what success looks like for these cohorts. So when this works well, here's what we expect to see. We expect to see that programs move to closer to or complete registration. We hope that funding becomes clearer and more attainable. We hope that high quality principal apprenticeship pathways launch or strengthen. And we also hope that within the field that it benefits from shared learning, case studies, and also examples of what's working. Again, this is not just for individual programs, it's about building a national ecosystem that actually works. So if you are a district or if you are a agency or intermediary or a partner organization and you're anywhere from planning to early implementation, this cohort was really designed for you in mind. We know that this work is complex and you are not supposed to have it all. We don't have all the answers today. A part of this cohort is that we are learning along together as well. And we can further answer those questions. And that's the point of this cohort. So with that, we want to open it up for questions. We're happy to go deeper on design, eligibility, timeline, or anything else that's on your mind. I do want to also name that applications are open currently for the TA cohort. The TA cohort will be small this go around by design. So we intentionally will only have 3 to 5 participating cohorts this year. And that's because we want to ensure that folks really get what they need, and also that we're building a system that we can scale and implement to have more participating cohorts in the future. So again, thank you all for joining. I want to open up for any questions. Applications are closing February 13th, and we're happy as a collective to understand if folks may need some additional time or if folks may have some intricate questions. The application also is very short by design. We don't want to make this any more complicated than it already is. We want to just understand where you are, how we can support, and what supports that you need so that you can meet your standards. So I'll stop talking. Folks, please feel free, if you'd like to come off mute, you can feel free to raise your hand or you can put the questions in the chat. Yes, I see a question about what is the time requirement. We are asking that for folks that our monthly TA cohorts will be about an hour or maybe an hour and a half or maybe even 2. So overall, we're looking about a meeting a month. So in all, with planning, preparation, you all coming with the questions, connecting with our district and state leads, we're probably looking about 4 to 5 hours a month, which again, by design, we understand that folks are busy. We understand that folks are planning. So overall, the cohorts will be about 4 to 5 hours. And if there is targeted needs that are specific, we will have the possibility of having office hours with our state or district leads. When you ask, can you clarify a little bit more about what you mean, what deliverables are expected? Faith, I'm sorry. Oh, great question. So we will be creating case studies. We will have webinars. Again, we will have engaged discussions, peer learning. As I mentioned before, we'll have office hours. We will also be having a tracker where we are monitoring the progress of program milestones. So whether you are advancing toward registration, apprenticeship approval, any clarifying things that you need to secure funding or what funding is available. We'll also share that at any given moment because we know that funding streams are often changing. So we will provide you with the most up-to-date information that we have. And as I mentioned, any program design elements, mentorship, competency, partnerships, we will also support you in creating those as well. And then, as I mentioned, we will also be seeking from our participants some feedback and also some reflection, so that we'll ask our participants to engage in a brief quarterly survey so that we can understand the intricacies of the work and also where folks are getting stuck. This is not evaluative, and this is really how we can continue to improve the cohort in real time. I hope that answered that question. Again, as folks are figuring out questions that they have, um, I do want to continue to just name a few things that might also help clarify any worries or any things, and some final things to know. As I mentioned before, this is not a compliance or I gotcha process. As I mentioned, this cohort is really designed to support you, not to audit you. We're not here to judge programs or require perfection. We are really trying to help you make informed decisions, avoid common pitfalls, and also move forward. And as I mentioned before, with confidence. So we're here to support. And again, you do not need to have everything figured out to apply. Again, as I mentioned, you can be in the early planning, actively designing, or just starting to explore what registration would look like. In fact, many of the programs we feel like would benefit the most are the ones that don't have all the answers yet. Because we can support you in figuring that out. And as I mentioned before, this cohort is intentionally small. We are keeping cohorts small so that support can feel tailored. Um, that means that participants in are getting in real time with leads, with peers, and this is not a one size all kind of series of assistance. So again, we are trying to make sure that this is practical. Our sessions will be built around real questions. How do we actually register? What funding is allowed? What licensure rules conflict? And also what supports in mentorship and paid learning should those have? We will answer those and help you answer those and help you design this. And then also you'll be able to learn from your peers in Israel. One of the most powerful things in this model is that you'll be learning from each other and hearing from other shared experiences and also folks who are wrestling with the same issues and conflicts. So this work is connected to also a broader national effort. So by participating, you'll be contributing to some national efforts that define quality, that will be able to reduce any gaps and also to, of course, continue to build sustainable leadership pipelines. And again, bigger than anything, as I mentioned, this is no cost to participate. All the technical assistance is provided at no cost. We are here to help you. We know that their budget constraints are very real, and we do not want this to be a cost barrier for folks to get to quality. So I will stop talking and let folks continue to ask. What are Thank you, Alan. What are the expected outcomes for success in the end? What are you hoping to accomplish? Um, Again, some of the expected outcomes for success and what we're trying to accomplish here, we are hoping that folks feel confident in whatever space they are in as far as their application process, whether it's you're needing the information to start your own apprenticeship program, or you are applying, you are trying to ensure that your program along the way has quality. We are hoping that we have a number of active and registered principal apprenticeship programs by the end of this. So for us, that is what success looks like. If folks are walking away feeling like they got the tools, got the knowledge, and can share to replicate and to scale, then we feel like we have done our job with the TA cohorts. So hopefully in the next year or two, just as with registered teaching apprenticeships, when that started off, we went from 2, now we are at 48 or 49 states, I'm not sure, but it really, there was uptick because everyone came together. There were shared beliefs, there was shared resources, there was quality that was understood around the work, and that is what our intentions are with the TA cohort with principal apprenticeship programs. And I'll also pinpoint it to my colleagues as well. What would success look like for you all? Is there anything that you all are envisioning around this work?
I can jump in, Sabrina.
Mhm.
I think what stands out to me in doing, well, we do a lot of TA work across the state where there's a lot of variance in the types of districts and schools that we work with, as well as sitting on some of the more national organizations. Um, it's really, this type of work is contextual, but what seems to be a through line through all of it is it really is a systems change. And part of this is like change management, and how are we changing the systems within the district and the mindsets within the districts and at the state level to understand the value of this work. And I feel like I've seen a lot of success in TA cohorts, like navigating that and trying to better understand how to manage this change management while implementing the program so that you do have a successful program. I think that's really big. And again, I also think, again, with like local context and what these cohorts can allow us to do is learn from each other, learn from different districts, but also really understand what's going on at the local level and try to support you however we can in that way. It looks a little different for everyone where they're at. So these TA cohorts usually are really helpful in understanding that and meeting the needs of where you individually might be at with your district.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to emphasize, Sabrina, you made a comment about like the one-offs, and I think a lot of us have seen that. And, Ellie noting that this idea toward a systems change, I believe that this is the work that gets us there, right? And I do feel like right now is a really critical moment for us to come together. And even though our work is contextual and we will be approaching kind of you know, each cohort understanding their specific need, there is this like bigger understanding of like what are the through lines of knowledge. I think just in general, this approach really centers implementation and not just awareness. And I think that's really huge. Um, I think we've seen a need to bridge policy and practice. And so I'm really excited about kind of getting into the weeds with you all of like what that looks like for you. But recognizing that although it can be really specific to where you are and once again the context, there are these through lines. And I think by being in conversation with one another, we'll be able to really support those needs. And in general, what excited prepared to teach about this opportunity is it does reflect the field needs like a sustainable solution, right? And so being able, I think we learned in New Mexico, and may not be aware, New Mexico's legislator awarded teacher candidates now get $35,000 stipend, right? And that was a big win for us. And we need those sustainable solutions. And we can't keep doing these standalone initiatives. So integrating residency, grow your own, and the licensure pathways, those are the conversations we'll be having and learning from each group, like what's happening for you all. What are the one-offs that exist? What has been successful? And a lot of you know what hasn't been successful, right? And we'll be having those conversations and working together to build this really sustainable system. And so I think that's like when I think of like the technical assistance part of it, right? Although there's these like markers and of course looking at the guidelines to help us define quality, there's also so much space for us to learn from each other, and use the knowledge we have to create this sustainable system.
Yes, and I also did see a question about my mentioning of over 40 states. And I'm saying this is where registered apprenticeships for teaching for K-12 teachers now live. But the Pathways Alliance does have over 80 partner organizations. And I have shared the link if you'd like to look at our website as well. That might be helpful. And I did see a question about being and SEA and how this work may be in line. I think that's a great question. If you're already focused on teacher apprenticeships and APPs, this work actually does build directly on that foundation. Principal apprenticeships are really what we look as the next step in the educator apprenticeship continuum. And many of the systems you're developing, registration, funding, guidance, partners, and EPP alignment, we believe transfer naturally. And I believe that this cohort really allows us and lets states plan ahead, which would be really helpful in that way, and that they're ensuring that when districts are ready to move into that leadership apprenticeship space, that we're not requiring you to make a huge shift focus away from teaching apprenticeships, and that it will feel like a natural progression. Helpful. I hope that was helpful. There's another question, and I'll leave it to my colleagues if one of you want to answer. We are a nonprofit resource center working statewide to implement and develop teacher apprenticeships. Would this cohort provide continuum of pathways for these programs? And I think I mentioned that a little bit in my last answer, but if anybody has anything else to add.
I think, yeah, you did mention a little bit, Sabrina. In New York State, just if this is helpful, we do think about, we have teacher assistant pathways, teacher pathways, and we look at those as like stepping stones. And for those that want to lead to a school building leader, a school administrator pathway as well, like that's how we're thinking about it in New York State to continue that economic growth and access to those opportunities. So I would say it definitely can provide a continuum for the pathway for teachers. And so it's a good way to think of it at a state level.
Yeah, I immediately thought of I was in Texas, I believe. One of the districts we work with, they had this like very, very intricate on-ramp program. And it was just multiple pathways, right? And I think those were really necessary. We had career changers, paras, and just like that continuum of different pathways into the field. Once again, this was really specific to the fact that this is a rural district and they had, very specific staffing needs. And so once again, we're probably sounding like a bit of a broken record. We recognize how much context matters, and so are looking to support, the different contexts that exist.
Oh, and sorry, Pat. Yes. If you do need to follow up with us, we're happy to have some follow-up. We'll share our information here after, and you can feel free to schedule if you need some additional questions before your application.
Hi, Marlene Migas. I put a question in the chat about timelines and other types of cohorts that you may be sponsoring.
Yes, thank you for that. So, as I mentioned, the timeline for this, our applications are currently open right now through February 13th. We will review all cohort applicants from there. We do intend to actually start the actual cohorts in March. That will be our first cohort meeting. So from between the end of February and the first meeting, folks will actually be receiving information from us just about what to show up with the first meeting, and also um, what supports you will need and like how we can support you, which is we'll kind of go through your applications. The sessions will run from March through December. And as I mentioned, office hours and targeted coaching also may be available throughout. Currently, they're not various types of cohorts for like para apprenticeships or anything like that, but we do hope that if that is a need in the future, as we're kind of doing some research and doing some work, that will be something that we can create. But currently, our cohorts are just surrounding around principal apprenticeship programs. Hope that answers your question and is helpful. Well, in this time, we'll share our email with you all, and I'll leave it. Yes, this is where you will be able to reach us if you have any additional questions or would like to connect with us one on one. We'll also um, we will also put our email address in the chat, and you can feel free to uh, direct it to any one of us, and we will be able to get back to you. And I'll ensure that my colleagues also receive any messages if it's directed towards them. All right. Well, we thank you all for your time. We know that this was a 45-minute session, but I hope that we have answered questions to the, so that there's some more clarity and understanding. We are very excited about this work. We are very excited. We've understand that there has been some intricacies around receiving supports in this space. And we want to ensure that there is not a paywall that is stopping folks from quality, as I mentioned before, which is our big emphasis on why this is free. We understand some things have changed in the landscape, but we want to ensure continuity and also quality in this space. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. We look forward to engaging with you, and we hope that you're getting your applications in. And thank you all for your time. Any final words, my colleagues? If not, we can close this out.
Just excited to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be here.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to your applications. Again, please feel free to reach out if you need any follow-ups or have any follow-up questions, and have an amazing Thursday. Thank you, everybody.